Students, families, friends, and community members, welcome to our presentation, Hats Off to the Grads, a look into the lives of our alumni. This video features excerpts from graduate emails, Zoom interviews, and video recordings from the alumni of Mesa Prep and Arate Prep classes of 2014 to 2020. We invite you to see the amazing things our alumni have done after their time in our community. Without further ado, we present our alumni.
Hello everyone, I'm Angie Kaufman. I graduated from Arate Prep in 2019, and I am now a college sophomore at the University of Northern Colorado. I am currently doing my bachelor's degree in English secondary education and a minor in theater and an endorsement in theater education, while also being in the honors college. I actually just got accepted into the upper division honors program, which is the second step of the honors college, which basically just means that I will be working on my honors thesis starting this spring all the way until my senior year. Outside of my studies, I am also very involved in extracurriculars in college and off campus as well. I am part of the Teacher Readiness Club and the UNC dance team, which actually traveled to Spokane, Washington this spring for the National Dance Convention for 4 days, which was super exciting, and it was a really great honor to be on that team. I'm also a honors mentor for the honors program, which is a lot like being a mentor at Arate, and I'm on the leadership team for the Bear Catholic Club, which is a giant Catholic community on campus, and I spend a lot of time with them in general. Outside of college and the campus, I teach religious education classes on Sundays at my local church, and I am part of the Greeley Community Theater, which put on Frozen last fall, which was really exciting and also really fun to be in, and a little theater in Denver that I also am part of. And through one of my classes at UNC, actually, I was able to start volunteering at a soup kitchen in Colorado Springs, which has been absolutely life-changing and really shaped my heart a lot when I was working there, or volunteering, I guess, and I plan to volunteer there every time I go home. It's just so much fun. I also have been honored to be cast in a short film over the summer with a theater company, or a film company, in Colorado Springs. And my advice to a middle or high school student, that's you guys, is to really apply yourself both in and outside of the classroom, because the habits that you build now, whether that be work habits with studies or just habits of interacting with other people in your clubs, are going to help you so much later on in college or in high school if you're a middle schooler now. These habits will travel with you and make your life so much easier. Not everyone builds great habits, and once you get to college, that really bites you. So that's my advice.
Would you mind introducing yourself, what year you graduated from Arate, and then what you have been doing after high school?
Yep. My name is Joseph Hartshorn. I graduated Arate in 2016, and I went to George Fox University up in Oregon and studied film and biblical studies, and then did a semester through that program down in LA where I was focusing on sound, then went back up to Portland and interned in a studio for a year. And then I graduated this past May and then moved down to LA and have been freelancing as a boom operator and production sound mixer and sound utility for the past 4 months consistently.
How has going off and starting your career after college, how has that gone? Have there been any significant challenges, due to a lot of different businesses shutting down or offering limited hours or even offering limited projects because of COVID? What has been your experience so far?
So for me, it's worked out really well because as soon as everything shut down in COVID, I used a few of the contacts that I had online to start networking with all the major production sound mixers and boom operators that I could find. And there's multiple different Facebook groups and other social media groups that are established for sound people within the film community. So I just hopped on those and I basically treated from March till September as a nonstop. Every single day, my personal job was just to network with a different sound mixer, talk about their advice, get whatever career advice I could do, figure out what skills I hadn't picked up from film school, which is most of them, and then teach myself those skills, learn how to get better at what I was doing, and figure out how to market myself to other people. So as soon as I moved to LA, the first 2 months were slow because it was in the middle of being in complete lockdown, but after that, I kind of hit the ground running when I boomed the first feature I did with another mixer, and then he referred me to other people, and I just slowly started building up my freelancing network. So I started taking a few jobs off of Craigslist and a few jobs off of referrals, but then after that, I'd say for the past 3 months I've been working consistently only off of referrals from other people and people calling me to work gigs either as return customers or as someone meets someone who knows a friend of a friend who then asked one of my other boom ops or mixers I've worked for or worked with, and then they referred me for that job. So it's been interesting and difficult because I'm building a freelance network to a career from scratch, but also at the same time, I managed to fully jump into the industry for just starting out within basically a semester's time, which is kind of unheard of. So being able to have a bunch of really high-level mixers sitting at home with nothing better to do except for answer questions to a new boom op mixer was really helpful for me. When I was in Arte, I did robotics for 1 year. I did lots of archery, all of 6th through 12th grade. I did martial arts outside of it, and I spent most of my time just hanging out talking with Mr. Jordan or Miss Sherman about Greek or philosophy.
So where did the interest in film come from for you?
For me, it was the idea that I wanted to be able to find a way to communicate in the narrative that seems to be a part of human culture and try to add some influence to try to make a difference in the world. Because to me, one of my major tenets is Socrates is the unexamined life is not worth living. And I wanted to help just spread more intellectual thinking and education. But the problem with academia is the more you learn, the more you end up in a niche circle where you're only able to share that idea with a few people. So I figured my best bet was to just work in the film industry as someone who's trying to live out those practices and have some good discussions, maybe influence a few people, but also just work on a bunch of stuff to be a person working right next to the people who are making the media that will influence the entire culture. So it's interesting because in a lot of situations, I'm the stoic sitting in a room full of Epicureans, but it's a fun time, and it the more I get into it, as soon as I got into college, I realized that sound is the area that I've always kind of fallen in love with, probably because I listened to way too many audiobooks as a kid. But I like focusing on capturing the dialogue of the scene and the performance and making sure that it's right. So I started doing dialogue editing and post-production a lot, but then I realized that I like getting it right on set first. And then the more that you work, at least on set, for me in sound, it's a fun juggle because you are simultaneously the technological engineer for your department, making sure you have the right radio frequencies, nothing's interfering, you have everything tuned in properly, you have your power pulled in a way that's not going to blow any fuses or anything, and that you aren't going to get any static. And then you have to be creative enough to be able to talk with all the people doing the camera, the lighting, to figure out what the movement of the action is, how you're going to dodge casting any shadows or ending up in any important lights and not dip into the frame, because you have to be as close to the frame line of the lens as possible, but also not casting any shadows and not dipping in. And then there's the part where you're catching the performance of the person's breath as they do that moment, and to actually get it perfectly captured, to get the room and the feeling of the emotion of the performance in sync with what they're doing, is a really unique experience that makes you the closest person to the emotion of the set, because you're just right there, you know, a boom pulse distance away from the other person, and just feeling it in your headphones as you're getting your mic shooting right at them, catching the performance of whatever dramatic moment they're doing. So you catch the catharsis of the performance. When I started researching for college, I started going in 10th grade to every single college visit that came to campus that I was able to make. So that was basically my entire lunch periods and before school activities for 3 years. And Mr. Glow and Miss Hager were constantly seeing me popping into their offices as I would just ask them, you know, every single questions and try to figure out like what college I wanted to do and why I wanted to do that, because I wanted to find a place that had a good film program so I could participate in narrative storytelling, and that had a really solid honors program that I would be able to be a part of to be able to continue Socratic discussion, because it's really addicting and I wanted another 4 years of it. And I found George Fox because I was at the Glendale Prep College Fair that they were doing for everyone, and I last minute just ran by Mr. Guello and asked her like, hey, any other tents I should check out? And she's like, maybe George Fox, I don't know. So I went over there, and the current head of the honors program who founded it, Dr. Claire, was just sitting behind the booth because he was in town visiting friends. So I started up a discussion with him, and that was really great. And then I visited and actually participated in a seminar in my junior year, which gave me a feel for the program and its discussions, which were amazing because they were discussing Justin Martyr, Tertullian, and Clement of Alexandria's essays on what does Athens have to do with Jerusalem. So it was really interesting for me to be able to fully participate, because at that point it had only been the freshman class of the program because it was still in beta testing. So I managed to sit in, and at that point they had read basically everything that I had read up to that point in junior year, because they had just come off of Seneca and Aristotle and were starting to go into the early Christians in Rome. So I was able to just jump straight into the discussion and match them beat for beat and content that we had read. And then going back through the program gave me the ability to look at it from a different lens, because every time you have a different cohort, it gives you a different perspective. And then we added in a few different texts that Arte didn't get to, because Arte is only a Western canon. So we got to do some of the classics like Confucius and Tao Te Ching and the Bhagavad Gita, and it had a little bit more of a Christian focus since George Fox is a Christian school. So we got to go through a little bit more of the medieval mystics of monasticism, which St. Bernard of Clairvaux is one of my favorite authors, but also just because I like the medievals a lot for their monastic tradition because it's very beautiful. So I found a place where I could develop, going through the Socratic discussion again, to just, learn more about myself, learn more about the text, see it from a different lens, and see some of the stuff I hadn't seen since 9th grade again 4 years later. I was a little bit different. I started my thesis in 10th grade when Miss Lugari's Humane Letters class, where I came up with the idea and just started brainstorming with her then. And then she ended up leaving Arte to finish her degree program, and I swapped over with Miss Sherman as my advisor, so that way I could translate all the excerpts of the symposium that I was using from the original Greek and use my own translation, since I was doing a linguistical analysis of the types of love in comparison with Lewis's. And then I kind of also stretched the book limit rule, because I ended up using 5 books and making Miss Sherman read a lot. And I think they added rules now to make sure you can't do what I did for your senior thesis process. But I would recommend, if you have the time for it, which might be more towards the juniors who are thinking about writing towards their thesis, but also the seniors who are writing, to write authentically. I have a personal vendetta against writing anything a priori. So for me, everything I write has to be something that I explore, at least philosophically, and figure out what I believe about the topic and how it directly is applicable, or not even applicable, but hypothetically applicable within a situation, even if it's in a metaphysical application of trying to figure out what role your mind and your soul and your heart and whatnot are interacting with emotions. But you have to figure out why the topic that you are actually writing about matters, and write about why you care about it mattering. And find your way to push through, because you're seeking an answer. So don't write an essay like you know all the answers. Write your first draft like you're seeking the answer and writing out your process of how you're finding it. And then revise your draft once you've written all the way through, so that way you have your final answer. And then, just take out the I think it would be's and change it to it is, or completely delete the sections that are wrong because you messed up along the way, and that's going to happen. Always overwrite and edit to shorter. It's easier that way.
Hi everyone, my name is Bethany Richards and I graduated Arte in 2017. I am currently a senior here at ASU studying anthropology, focusing mainly on bioarchaeology, which is the study of ancient human remains in the archaeological context. I currently have a job here at ASU working for the Repository of Archaeology and Society, and Mr. Coro asked if I could give a brief tour just to show around and generate some interest. I'm not able to show you what I work on strictly. It deals with a lot of sensitive content, but I am just able to show you a few of the artifacts we do have here in our collections, just to spice things up. So So unfortunately at the moment they are currently doing renovations next door, and to protect the artifacts, because a lot of the artifacts in this room are pots and pottery, we have to keep the plastic wrap up, but we do have a lot of Native American pottery, and what we don't keep on the shelves, we tend to keep in these lovely filing cabinets. There's a lot of different artifacts in here, a lot of ground stones, some glass, lots of statues, and just smaller artifacts. So, as you can see here, this is just the mainly ancient Egypt drawer, Northern Africa, but a lot of the artifacts we carry here are from South America due to the different research. And this is just our front area where we have some of the artifacts put on display. So these are some sherds, which are pottery, broken pottery pieces. The sunglyph boulder from Roosevelt Lake, and some more pottery. Archaeology is a lot of pottery. I hope you guys enjoyed the very brief tour I was able to give you, and have a good rest of your semester, guys.
Hello, my name is Bree Ward and I graduated from Arte in 2016. I attended Arizona State where I studied English literature and got minors in business, Spanish, and history. I was involved in a club called Page Turners at ASU, and then the Capital Scholars Program, but the official summer trip to DC got canceled because of COVID. But then otherwise I mostly just worked, and I did 2 study abroads, one of them for a summer in the UK and then a semester in Buenos Aires, Argentina. One of my favorite classes was a Russian literature class with one of my favorite professors at ASU, and I think that's why I liked it so much. She just cultivated a great classroom environment. And my favorite part about ASU was study abroad. I know that expense holds a lot of people back from doing those study abroads, but if you have the opportunity to do it, or if you can find one in your budget, which is more realistic than a lot of people think, there are week-long or month-long programs. They're still very expensive, but there are tons of scholarship opportunities. If you can find a way to do it and you're interested, I highly recommend it. It's a great way to push yourself outside of your comfort zone, try something new, meet awesome people, and I think it's what most people who did it walk away from college saying was their favorite experience. So it's kind of a awesome opportunity. So if you have any chance to do it or any desire at all, I would say pursue a study abroad. Any advice I have to middle schoolers, I think, would just be figure out what you like now. Try out a lot of things, try out clubs, try out sports, whatever you think you're interested in, figure out what that is so you can kind of find your niche moving forward, and that'll be kind of what connects you throughout the rest of your experience. And then high school students, I know senioritis is real. I just graduated, so I can relate. But lean into the pain, push through it, because that's where the growth comes from, and you're going to be really happy in college if you set yourself up for success. That extra scholarship money might be what sends you on to study abroad. The extra scholarship money will give you those opportunities you want. So if you're trying to get through and push through for those grades, it actually will pay off. Or even if that's not what you're looking for, just setting yourself up for future success by doing your best now, it's going to make college a lot easier, and that'll give you more time to do the fun things and the things you want to do with your friends, and I think that will make it all worth it. All right.
Hi, I'm Ireland Fleck. I graduated class of 2020. I am a freshman at GCU. And I'm majoring in English with an emphasis in professional writing. I love to read books, and I do like to write as well. So I was thinking about maybe going into the publishing industry, like for books. Maybe just pay attention to the discussions you have in Humane Letters, like with different books, because there may be an interesting concept that you like and you might want to explore more on. Like for mine, I talked about animals and humans, and sometimes in discussions we talk about like the nature of humans and nature of animals, and I always thought that was interesting.
Caitlin, do you mind introducing yourself? What year did you graduate? How long had you been at Arate or Mesa Prep beforehand?
Yeah, so my name is Caitlin Perkins. I graduated in the class of 2018 at Arate, and I started going to Arate when I was in 7th grade. So not quite from the beginning, but most of my middle school and high school career was at Arate.
Excellent. And were you involved in anything on campus, club, activity?
Yeah, when I was in middle school, I did some sports. I played volleyball, I did a little bit of track. And then in high school, I was briefly in the drama club. That was a lot of fun. And I helped my dad briefly coach the middle school track team, so some of our students might remember me from that. I think they're all in high school now, they're growing up. It was something that I never would have done on my own. I started in drama club like extracurricularly after I had to take it as a class, and I have pretty bad stage fright. I'm not necessarily like a big outgoing kind of spirit, but when I did it in class, I really enjoyed it, and I found that it was something that I had a lot of fun doing, and so that extracurricular element was a lot of fun for me. And then I actually did end up, I think it was my second year in drama club, I ended up on more of the production element, like the, co-directing it with Miss McGuire. So that was another really fun element that showed me a different side of things.
Well, wonderful. And then after high school, what did you end up pursuing?
After high school, I ended up at NAU. I am a business major, so I was studying business administration. After my freshman year and half of my sophomore year, I actually ended up deciding that the best choice for me was going to be to move back down into the valley here and pursue an online degree, which is still through NAU, and it's a different sort of program. It's formulated differently than your standard class.
And what is the program called?
The program is the Personalized Learning online program through NAU. It essentially is a completely self-guided, like there's no due dates or anything. It is, you do it at your own pace, you complete it when you can, and when you pay your initial fees, you are paying for a subscription essentially to all the materials you'll need for the classes you need to complete to graduate. Mm-hmm. And within that 6-month subscription, you can complete as much or as little as you are able to. And then if you have anything that's not quite finished, you can pick it up in your next subscription. So it really opens the door for a career and working within the time that I can work, and then schooling within the time that I can pursue that. Are actually a couple different, slightly different degree paths available through the Personalized Learning program. The one that I am currently pursuing is a small business administration program, so it's targeted a little bit less towards the corporate scene and a little bit more towards entrepreneurship. So that's something that I personally was looking for, and that they didn't necessarily have this specific degree path on campus.
Any type of advice that you would have for like middle school or high school students as you reflect on your time at Arate coming in as a 7th grader? Do you wish you would have done something differently during your time?
I really wish that I had gotten more involved in more extracurriculars way earlier on. I think that if I took that step and joined, say, drama club in 7th grade right away, I think I really would have grown more in my career in that and gotten more out there and just had more time to really enjoy that. I feel like picking that up in 11th grade, I felt kind of rushed. I was getting towards the end of my high school career and I didn't have time to do the things that I wanted to do still. You meet a lot of really wonderful people, and there's a lot of, I mean, everyone at Arate is a good soul, and you get to interact with them in a lot of different ways, in like the drama club setting and the sports setting. Even within those, there are activities, and everyone's at different stages in their school, and everyone's in different places sort of maturity wise. So it's kind of crazy, obviously, but it's nice to see all the different grades come together and interact, because you get the older kids that you see them taking on that leadership role and really helping out with the younger kids and mentoring them even when they're not necessarily called to do so. They don't necessarily have that responsibility, but they take it on anyways, which is really great to see. And interacting with the younger kids is really nice, especially as they start to get older and you see them growing up and maturing in their own right. And like Lily Whitehead, Alyssa Bradley, I've seen them really grow and find themselves and become really successful. So it's really rewarding.